So be it. Well, this is an amazing turnout. You never know what's going to happen on a cold night in Chicago, but not surprisingly, this is a marvelous turnout. And it's one of my favorite events at the university. I guess I'd preface by saying I'm Suzanne Buffum, and I teach poetry in the creative writing program here. This event, the Ron Offit Poetry Prize, was established in the memory of the poet and editor Ron Offen, with the purpose of bringing one Chicago poet to campus every year for a public reading. And in addition to that poet's reading, we also include a student poet whose work was chosen by our visiting poet from submissions all across campus. I think what I love about this particular event, in all our many wonderful events we have on campus that I hope you come to as well, is that it's the emphasis this event places not only on poetry, but on the role of poetic and poetry communities, such as ours, not only on campus, but across the city, in the health and well-being of community writ large. It's hard to imagine a writer in Chicago today so perfectly suited for this Ron Offit poetry event as Erika Sanchez is. It's not just that she's from Chicago and writes about Chicago so vividly and passionately, and has returned to Chicago over and over the years from assorted global travel, and now lives and teaches as an adult in Chicago. But it's also that Erika writes with such boldness and vivacity and crackling wit about communities of all kinds, about the cruelties and casual violences and degradations and shames they inflict, as well as the intimacies, comforts, and sense of belonging they provide. Many of you, of course, know Erika Sanchez as a novelist. Her dark and wisecracking coming-of-age debut novel, I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, garnered widespread critical acclaim. I'm sure many of you have read it. And many of you also know that this book will soon be even better known as a Netflix series directed by America Ferrer. Many of you also likely know her as the author of the hilariously candid personal essay collection, also called a memoir, called Crying in the Bathroom, which you can download as an audiobook if you want to hear Erika read that to you herself. Or you can buy it and read it aloud to each other. There's so many ways in which you may encounter her work, on the page, in your ear, on your screen. But tonight we're here to get to know her as a poet, which is, I suspect, the way that Erika best knows herself. As you listen to her poems, no matter how painful and how caustic and how exuberant the material may be, you'll hear a sense of searching self-inquiry, at odds more often than not with the claims and constraints of community. You'll hear, too, as she conjures up one rich and vibrating sensorium after another, not only a mind at work, but a body embodied. Even at its most privately interior or abstract, her language remains deeply embodied and alive. My tongue grows plump as a greedy slug, she writes. Again and again, an umbrella opens inside me. Without further ado, I invite up Erika Sanchez, the poet.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored, flattered. I'm feeling many things. So I'm just really happy to be here. I'm going to read all new work. I don't know what to tell you about it. This is a collection. It's not yet a collection. It's building towards a collection, and it's largely informed by my role as a mother, as a wife, as a person who struggles with traumas, even though my life seems very nice and perfect. And so I'm going to just jump in, and I think I'll start with all of us. All of us. Every day I am born like this. No chingues. Nothing happens for the first time. Not the neon sign that says vacant, not the men nor the jackals who resemble them. I learn to court myself under a violence of stars. I prefer to become demon, what their eyes cannot. Half of me is beautiful, half of me is a promise filled with the quietest spaces. Every day I pray like a dog in the mirror. You know, a bitch learns to love her own ghosts. Yeah, most of these I haven't read out loud, or to a crowd of people. And so I'm going to try this one out now. This one was really fun to write. It's all in Spanish. Even if you don't speak Spanish, I hope that you can sense the urgency that is there. Los corazones, las relaciones, agua dulce, el durazno, la pena, la catedral, la temblorosa, las norias, la canasta, las conchas, chupaderos, las nueces, ojo de puerco, el paraíso, la curva, la victoria, espinazo, Espíritu Santo, el triunfo, el nacimiento, el trabajo, nombre de Dios, el mocho, arrastradero, el melón, la bota, la punta, la boca, la popa, palomas, el nido, las rosas, las pilas, iguala, placeres, el chorro, el fénix, la discordia, la frontera, la pastilla, las cebollas, la ventana, las tetillas, el bolillo, el presidio, el viboreo, calaveras, las vacas, las pulgas, el huizache, la grandeza, Lolita, piedras negras, las casitas, la trinitaria, la hojita, Moctezuma, Eloísa, la rumorosa, María Luisa, la peinada, los lirios, la cabra, la cueva, palizada, Ascensión, Sinsunsan, niños héroes, válgame Dios, Dolores, la quinta, el papalote, las adelitas, el coroneo, las matanzas, el basurero, todos santos, la campana, los amantes, el capricho, el consejo, tres pechos, la ordeña, el cielo, los lamentos, la venta, agua tibia, los polvosos, el tiempo, la libertad, Huitlacoche, los enchilados, el carnicero, la gloria, el milagro, degollado, calabazas, encarnación, la palma, el frutillo, el rincón, cuchillo parado, el columpio, las gotas, el veranito, el ojito, el membrillo, el perico, el pujido, la esperanza, el chorizo, los dormidos, la barranca, el oro, la belleza, la purísima, la seca, nombre de Dios, las sandías, las agüitas, la golondrina, la tigra, la loma, la bomba, las hormigas, las rastras, las cookies, la escondida, la máquina, delicias, las avispas, la cuchara, la chingada, maravilla, los naranjos, la fábrica, los cuervos, la concepción, el contador, la banda, los muertos. So that poem I wrote using only names of towns in Mexico. And it was fascinating to do the research and go on Google Maps and zoom into all of these different places in Mexico. It was, I don't know, it opened up something inside of me. And I really enjoyed the process of making the poem. And I hoped that the poem, it would in some ways feel like a prayer. And so thank you. That was my first time sharing it, so I appreciate your warmth and your snaps. Thank you. Okay. I've got a lighter one, I guess. Let's try that. Conversations with my husband late at night. In the history of the world, has anyone ever jerked off to an avocado? Is the monkey on his actual deathbed, or is he just an excellent actor? What's this crust on the baby's neck? How does it feel to be married to a thick-ass queen? Is the chicken still good? Here, smell it. Are those socks clean? No, he was the other ugly guy. Who's your favorite Muppet? I need to know if you care for the word ointment. When did Snow take a dump in the basement? Would you still love me if I lost my butt in an accident? He looks like his hobby is picking his feet. That mustache is a misogynist. What if I drank the bong water? What if I were me, but I was a juggalo? It was hibachi style, obviously. He attended Fuckboy University, graduated with honors and everything. Ever hear a family of roaches scatter in the light? When is Professor Sausage coming back? How much was that bag of sticks? Who's the white chick with the locks? You got them licks? If I call you chief, we're not having sex. Why is the cat such a skink? What was your father's favorite snack? Who's to say what a mollusk is and what it ain't? I want to spend recklessly with 21 Savage. 21. Sometimes you have to boil the thorns. It helps with the balance. Then you make a necklace. He wasn't a looker in the face region, you see. I had another nightmare in which I killed somebody. Another in which you left me. Your mom is a tropical fruit. Who are you when you don't have a mirror? I used to have a crush on Shia LaBeouf. I see your face in her face when she coughs. Love's a mule with a broken hoof. It's weird to be happy after like a lifetime of not being happy. So I'm grappling with it and trying to harness it into my writing. And so it's been really interesting. I love being a mother. I'm obsessed with my daughter. I think she's just the best creature on this earth. And so writing for her and about her, what a challenge. It's so corny. It's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, you love your kid, right? But what else? And so that's where I've been lately, just trying to figure that out. Let's see. Okay. I, too, have a poem called Inheritance. So I love that. Inheritance. The weight of, I knew about, I pointed to, the path from which, the clouds without, the daughter of, the knowledge from, the wing above, the danger in. Forever since, I couldn't though, perched unto, wedded through, useless in the plucking at, the sky within, across the land, the leaping toward, I wish we were, the blood among, I forgive you for. All right. Okay. Memories of no consequence. The girl with the letter F tattooed on her cheek. A pack of feral dogs gossiping on the beach. My mother's scent after a shift at the factory. Annie's rotten teeth in the second grade. The smell of my clothes after we fumigate. The injured vulture in Managua and the sounds it made. Sister Act 2 dubbed in Spanish one Sunday afternoon. The witch who spit water on my back then struck me with twigs. The spirits gathered in threes. Do you like the way she porks? I asked. Little orphan Annie flapping in hot wind. The blanket that looked like a lion's skin. A señora's perpetual sigh has no beginning or end. The family of roaches trapped in a clock. The way she said, "It burns a little, don't it?" My grandpa explaining in great detail a panocha. The neighbor's perfectly oiled mullet. The forgotten asparagus and the smell it left us. The wolf-faced boy buying a paleta. All right, so I've got another poem like the list that I read you, only this one is in English. So this is titled Last Chance. And all of the, well, I'm sure you'll figure it out, but yeah, the towns are from the United States, and I only use towns. And that was my restriction in writing this. It's been very interesting, again, looking at the depths of our country through Google Maps. It's very bizarre. Okay. Last chance. Marked tree, burnt ranch, looking glass, confidence, hortense, embarrass, whitener, climax, red lick, Monticello, possum neck, benevolence, Fruitland, Lynchburg, Blue Eye, Jerusalem, jackpot, Pocahontas, Big Bottom, terracotta, Black Hawk, Bethlehem, Hicksville, Jordan, Buttsville, Gypsum, Cypress, Blossom, Lebanon, Accident, White City, Ding Dong, Cuervo, Othello, Uvalde, Descanso, Norway, Vienna, Electron, Minerva, Empire, Antlers, Great Falls, Bitterwater, Attica, Atascadero, Furnace, Omega, Alabaster, Enigma, Butters, Dulzura, Emily, Odessa, Jefferson, Lolita, Noblik, Moscow, Ferguson, Republic, Angola, Placentia, Vesper, Cornucopia, Tomahawk, Huntsville, Thickety, Riddle, Slaughter, Benevolence, Honeydew, Chicken Bristle, Natchez, Waco, Hermitage, Sturgis, Strawberry, Niceville, Baldwin, Needles, Newton, Las Cruces, Commerce, Hemlock, Evening Shade, Emmett, Cistern, Hamlet, Columbine, Egypt, Deep River, Palestine, El Paso, Sangre de Cristo, Prosperity, YOLO, Faulkner, Tulsa, Pickwick, Harvester, Parkland, Zephyr, Chickasaw, Allah, Freedom, Vergas, Olive Branch, Baghdad, Smallwood, Santa Claus, Rainbow, China, Onward, Amistad, Disco, Aurora, Pink Hook, Josephine, Hannibal, Evangeline, Hemingway, Wind Blow, Mule Shoe, Typo, Stillmore, Spiderweb, Ketchup Town, Blessing, Alhambra, Hollywood, Healing Springs, Barbecue, Artesia, Sandy Hook, Plum Tree, Turkey Foot, New Light, Mosquero, Armenia, Red River, Baldwin, Union, Money Creek, Cotton. I was just thinking of how every day we have a mass shooting now, and it's not normal, and we shouldn't ever think that it is. But it's something that we have grown almost accustomed to and expect, and how what I think this country truly needs in order to change in a way that we're, not killing each other all the time. I think what we need to do is really confront our history and to really understand what it is that actually happened to form this country, that this country, was not some beautiful land for the taking. There were people here, they were living here, they had families, societies, complex structures, and that was all taken away for the most part. And then slavery, taking people from their home to then work for free to make, these old white dudes rich. Like, what is this? What are we living in? And so when I take a step back and I look at all of that, sometimes I feel like really discouraged. But then I think about how important it is to confront what actually happened, the truth. And I think there's this battle against the truth. And it's really chilling. And tomorrow I'm going to Utah because they're banning my book. And I'm, part of this protest. And it's really scary to think about, keeping critical information from people, for young people not to know their history in this country because it's not taught in a way that is accurate. Anyway, I could go on and on about that, so I will stop. But it's something that I've been really thinking about a whole lot. Like, why do they want to silence us? They don't like that we exist. It's just wild. All right. Translation. A huevo. To be aggressively seduced by an egg. Ay Diosito. The small God you think because your hands exist. Me hicieron ojo. My eyelashes flew one by one like a longing. Señora studies. Look, a map in the dirt of your mother's hurts. Empacho. You ate cactus until you burst open like a rotten fruit. Tacos de cabeza. Quandaries posed under the spell of an orange moon. Un susto. Your future ghost twitches in an empty room. Santo Niño de Atocha. The baby saint who freed all the wounded deer. Escalofrío. The sudden chatter of your favorite ancestor, Lupe. No te metas con mi cucu, a cheerful song about attempted rape. Me da cosa, it gives me thing, a feather in your ear without consent. No mames, you still suckle from your mother's teat and tell us about it. Sopita de letritas, little baby soup made of little baby letters. Fabuloso, your mom's favorite mop water. El Chavo del Ocho, an adult orphan in search of an elusive ham sandwich. Esa huerca, Angie from next door who never wears socks. Allá en las cocinas, a crisis of the spirit. All flesh is grass. What I loved most is this, a tree who pleaded with the sky. In my dream, I meet myself at 15. It's the summer of shrillness, of non-existence, of half sentience and wild coruscations. The horizon is a burning wire, and I am brooding in an empty parking lot. The sky as mean as an old drag queen. My time here is a hexagon, so I trim the fibers so beautifully. Tell me, I say to me, how do we survive this? A ladder to the sky, me voy en chinga. Did you know that if you cut deep enough, you could see clouds? Do you know that if you cut deep enough, you can see clouds? Did you know that if you were to cut deep enough, you would see clouds? Cut deep enough and see some motherfucking clouds. All flesh is grass. And I'm just a punk who weeps over a morning glory. My feeble boyfriend confessing true story, he'd rather be a manatee. See, I'm trying to photograph the animal of my grief. I bend like apologies before an apocalyptic mirror. On my audition for death, the appetizer, good sir, is canned hamburger. See, I was the tree. I was the one who pleaded with the sky, oh, please, please help me not to die. Such an exquisite ache, the way Mexicans work, the way we break. My oblations are fistfuls of dirt I trace my lips with. At the end, I befriend a wise and loyal cockroach. I hold a suspected joy like an antler of an animal I once loved. And thus begins my building's roman. I just can't get over my teenage years, apparently. I just keep writing about it. I thought I had exercised that from myself after writing Mexican Daughter, but no. So this is the last poem. It's a prose poem opening. I wanted to rip the sky open with my fingers, lie in the dirt until I became it. The door was the opening to a wolf. Whatever was inside, I fed it scraps to keep it alive. The way Rift and Risk looked like sisters. It was beyond my wanting. I bowed to the beauty of the world like a tree with too much fruit. I screamed at a cloud until I was faint. In my dreams, men hurt me again and again with their fingers. I marry someone I hate in an ugly dress, and no one even remembers. I cut my wrist so hard, it finally takes. A deer leaps into a house at dusk. It takes my breath away. I should have been dead by now. Now I'm here with this child named Journey, a bright creature named Keep Going, named You Belong Here. Have I broken the curse yet? The girl who can't stop dancing even though her feet are bloody? My mother's silence is beautifully pleated. My ancestors are perched on my back waiting for results. In the museum of my hurt, the cups are filled with blood water. Everyone laps them up and claps. A series of diagrams of my unctuous past. See, no one ever told us we could be anything other than help, that we could live without a God who's never been sorry. Astonishment is always a form of birthing, so I didn't die. I've tried. For thousands of years, I've been alive. Thank you so much.
We do? Okay. It turns out we may have a little bit of time if you're open to taking some questions from our audience. Yeah? Totally. Like, what, I don't have a clock system here. 15 minutes?
Geez, mine is way ahead.
Okay, and then maybe y'all can join us for a little chit chat and wine and water afterwards. Thank you
Perfect,
so much.
sure, yeah. All right. Please, ask away.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for reading your beautiful work.
Thank you.
I noticed that in your poems you kind of tend to gravitate towards the form of lists. Is there a reason why that particularly appeals to you?
Actually, that's very new for me, and I began to do it because I was reading about these towns in Mexico, and the towns sounded so beautiful. The names were just like, what in the world? Just so bizarre and surreal, some of them. And so I challenged myself to write a poem in which I only wrote with the names of towns. And so that to me was like a very satisfying intellectual exercise, but also within the list, there is a story, you know, and so there's the story of poverty, of migration, of violence, of beauty as well, you know, of nature, of conquest and colonialism, and so it was a really nice parameter for me to work within, because sometimes I don't know how to harness all the things that I'm feeling or that I'm seeing. And so I started to write these two list poems, and I imagine in the book, the eventual book, they will mirror each other, one in the beginning and one at the end. And so, yeah, it's been great. Yeah. The translation exercise, I realize, also is a list poem. I'm not sure. It's a way to organize my thoughts, I suppose. I like the way that the poems can sound like prayers if, arranged in a certain way. And so, yeah. Thank you. Hi.
Thank you again for the reading. That was really wonderful.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about your process in like going through Google Maps, and I'm sure there's a whole list of town names that you didn't use or didn't speak to, and how you sort of chose between them.
It was like a really long and fun project for me. Like just looking at all the different places that I would never go to because I have no reason to go to them. And so, and seeing parts of Mexico that I just never think about, and finding all of these incredible names. And so I wrote a huge list, and then from there I wrote note cards, and then I played with the note cards for a long time. And that was really great. It's very satisfying. I don't know, if writing weren't so satisfying, I would not do it, obviously. It's just nonsense, right? Like to pursue something this difficult. But I love it, and I have like a gigantic office, not to brag, but it's really cool. And it's the attic of our house, and so I have all this room to play. And so I have like different areas for different kinds of stuff. Like, you know, I have an easel. Right now I'm writing on this like giant scroll type thing. You know, I form things with clay just for fun, stuff like that. And so for me, it's just been such a gift to have like the clubhouse I always wanted, and to be an adult and know how this is something that I envisioned, not quite like this, but something like this, and that I'm doing it, and it's been really fun. My process makes no sense to anyone. I promise. Like, I'll be working on a poem, and then I'll have a thought, and then I'll go write something down, and then I'll go and like, you know, do my laundry for a little bit, or, you know, it's just like my mind is very, very scattered, and I think I have undiagnosed ADHD, honestly. But it's worked. It's worked so far. So here I am. Yeah, lots of visual art, lots of just playing, you know, and now that I have a daughter who's 2.5, just the idea of play is so appealing to me, and it heals me in a very deep way. And I think that as adults, we're not really encouraged to do such things. We always have to have like some sort of result. We live in a society that is so like result oriented and like money driven, and like playing just for the sake of it isn't a thing that we normally do or are encouraged to do. And so I'm trying to defy that with my writing process, my artistic practice. Any other questions? Oh, hi.
Thank you again for your beautiful poems.
Thank you.
I'm curious, I know that you teach also writing, and I'm just wondering how your teaching informs your writing process, or vice versa?
Well, first, I love teaching, and it is something that has changed the way that I live and think, and I feel that my students are so smart and interesting, and they introduce me to things that I don't know about. And so for me, as a teacher, as a professor, I really love just an exchange rather than me lecturing about what have you. It's important to me to have a relationship of trust and of play, and to have respect for one another, and I feel like when the space feels safe, then they really open up. And so I feel like I'm constantly influenced by them in many different ways. I can't pinpoint, but they have some really great music recs because I'm like out of the loop, and so I thank them for that. It makes me also pay attention to language in a different way. When I teach, I have to think about how do I talk about this in a way that is accessible, that is interesting, and I have to revisit the same text many times, and so I rediscover things. You know, I teach Ansaldúa every few quarters. I teach Sandra Cisneros. I have a whole Latina memoir class, and so I get to revisit these books that have been so influential to me, and I feel like that just really solidifies what it is that I'm trying to do. And they teach me how to be a writer in the world, how to make leaps and take risks and things like that. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for reading.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here. I want to ask about you using Spanish vocabulary in your writing, and I guess this question also extends to Michael using Korean in his writing. And I'm curious to know, like, what kind of toolbox using different languages in your poetry kind of means for you, and I guess like what your creative intentions are, including both different languages in your writing.
Yeah.
If I don't know if Michael wants to answer this too, that would also be cool.
Yeah, I think that was another aspect of Michael's work that I was very drawn to, this incorporation of culture in a way that didn't apologize, that didn't explain, that didn't make itself, more digestible for the white gaze. I think that at this point, for me, Spanish is such an important tool because it just gives me an entirely different world to draw from. And I find it very interesting when people judge those who speak Spanish. It's like, well, wouldn't you want to speak Spanish also? It's pretty great. And so I find that very silly. And I want to write with a sense of pride for my people, where I come from, because it's who I am. I can't, subtract that from my psyche. It's impossible. And so I find that it just gives me more tools to work with. And also because I'm so grateful that I have this language at my disposal, I am working hard to make my daughter bilingual as well. And so her dad does not speak Spanish, but I speak Spanish, my family speaks Spanish, et cetera. And so I'm trying to keep it alive with her, because I think that it's gonna really be useful, and not just useful, but it's who she is, it's where she comes from. And so I'm very, very pro foreign languages without any italics or any explanation. I think that we've gone through the trouble of reading so many texts that have nothing to do with us, that are completely foreign, and we've been fine, I guess. And it's okay to ask the reader to do some work. If you don't understand the word, it's okay. Like, you just look it up or move on, whatever. I have people who sometimes get upset because my work isn't like relatable to them. I'm thinking of a woman named literally Karen who emailed me and was like, I read your book, but what does this have to do with me? Essentially, that was the question. And I was like, I don't think about you, so I don't know what else to say. I think that we're living in a time where we really need to take a side, unfortunately. Like, I am proud of being, Mexican American, and I want people to know that because we're villainized all the time. And there are terrible things happening in our communities. I'm not even going to get into it, but for me, yeah, it's a form of pride as well as like expression and culture, and it's a lot. It's very layered. Yeah. Do we have time for one more?
If you're amenable, we could do one more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for reading for us. That was amazing. I've noticed you have a lot of like repeating symbols in your work. So you have the deer and the wolf and the clouds and the sky and the blood. And could you talk about your process of honing your symbols and using them in different contexts and how they speak to each other in your work?
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess I do. Yeah. Sometimes I write and people give me an interpretation of my writing that I just never considered. And so I do see that I have those recurring images. I haven't thought about exactly how they're enmeshed, or they're images that I think for me are almost just part of my psyche, like, the unconscious or something like that. Like when I see a deer, I'm just mesmerized, every time. When I see antlers, when I see the sky always surprises me, even though we see it every day, same shit happens, but it's incredible, it's beautiful. And so I try to look at things with awe in order to give them another life. And so I think that's the best way to explain it. Thank you so much.
Perfect place to conclude.
Thank you.